It is a brand new year, full of possibilities. A blank page to be written on. A time for new goals, for resolutions, for starting things that you have always wanted to, but never have done. Now, I was at the front at the beginning, at last week's meeting, so I didn't see when Kelly asked everybody, how many of you made resolutions this year? No, not as many as I expected. Which I should, it should not surprise me, because for me, I know I do not stick to resolutions for very long. So I have taken to discouraging myself from even making them. I do like to make goals though, and I shared one with you guys last September, and that was that I was going to get my creative communication manual done this year, and I am on my way. So happy about that. 2 years ago, I did make a resolution, and it is a very different resolution than I ever imagined myself making. It was an extremely hard resolution for me to keep. But keep it I have, and I have my husband to credit for that, because he has been with me every step of the way. My family joined me on it, and we are all experiencing the results as a direct result of the fact of we are doing it together. So I have an autoimmune disorder that I was diagnosed with in my mid-20s. Autoimmune disorders all manifest themselves in different ways, and none of them are very fun. The only thing that they can tell you when you have an autoimmune disorder is that you need to manage the symptoms. So 2 years ago, I was beginning to have enough symptoms that it was affecting my daily life. And I was also starting to get quite concerned that this would affect our family. Right around that time, we started with a new chiropractor. And I heard for the very first time about the fact that the inflammation that causes pain and disease in our bodies can be linked back to sugar. Sugar feeds inflammation, and our entire society feeds on sugar. Now, I was and am a sugarholic. I will always deal with that, just like an alcoholic always desires alcohol. So, I love sweets, candy, desserts. Oh, they taste so good. As we started reading about it and educating ourselves and doing more research and becoming more knowledgeable, we began to realize that there was hope. I didn't just have to accept that diagnosis, that I had to treat the symptoms. And that's all I had to do. Or all I could do, I should say, for the last 10 years that they had told me. We knew that in order for anything to improve or even be reversed, it needed to be cut out of all of the sugar in our diet. And unless I wanted to go backwards, it had to be a permanent lifestyle choice for me. Michael and I decided that it would just be easier for our entire family to join us on this journey. And as it was so close to the beginning of the year, we decided to start on January 1st. Now, did you know that sugar is in everything that you eat? Especially the pre-made stuff. It is in the crackers. It's on chips. It is in cookies, of course. It's in bread. It is in our cereals. And the thing that floored me the most is spice mixes. Why do you need sugar in spice mixes? In the 70s, they linked fat with heart disease, and the low-fat trend began. When you take fat out of things, it takes the taste out of it, because the fat is what makes things tasty. So they had to compensate in some way, and they added sugar to all of these items. As our tongues became desensitized to the sugar, they had to add more and more to make it tasty. Now, those first few months of 2014 were the most difficult of my life. I cooked from scratch. I learned how to shop differently, so I was spending so many hours shopping, and had to learn how to read the labels properly. At the same time, I was detoxing and going through sugar withdrawal. Yes, there is such a thing as sugar withdrawal, especially for a sugarholic such as myself. It was not a fun time at all. We had decided to go hardcore right off the bat because instead of doing little bits at a time. So it was very strict at the beginning. The only thing that kept me going was that Michael and my kids were with me every step of the way. Now, as my body cleansed itself of the sugar that had wound its way through every part of me, I began to experience all of the symptoms that I had ever had with my autoimmune disorder. They happened in reverse. So it was a very weird thing, but also quite fascinating. As I got through that detox stage and began eating regularly without sugar, I began to notice something. I felt good. No, I felt great. Many of my symptoms were gone, and I had energy I had had in years. Much of what we also noticed were things that we didn't have anymore. Our family rarely got sick. When we did, it was quite short-lived. My kids were way less emotional than they had been before, and I could tell exactly who had had sugar that day at school because there was meltdowns. And because they were so infrequent, I didn't know how to deal with them anymore because they were so terrible. My husband and I started noticing when we ate sugar that we could link what happened to us with that sugar intake. We would get stomach aches. We would have clogged sinuses. Our emotions would be out of control. My husband ate a piece of dessert when we were away one weekend. We had some friends with us, and he realized that it caused him rage and anxiety. So our friends called him the Hulk as a result. Did you know that food actually tastes better when sugar is without, isn't there? We found that it actually masked our palates. When we didn't have that cover-up, we were able to taste the other flavors. Eating became a more enjoyable experience. And with the simple seasonings, we could have explosions on our tongue. On the flip side, desserts and candy no longer had the draw that it had before. Just as you have sweet, sugary sweetness that people use with their words are too much to handle, so were those sweets to our tongues. Resolutions. You may not make them, you may not keep them, or you may find that you make one that turns your entire world on its head and changes your life for the better forever.